Alright, we have the game running, everything's all good. So, hey everyone, it's sirFlameALott here. We're gonna try a new game called A Case of Distrust. It should be a pretty simple one. It's just like I actually don't know much about the game. I haven't like looked up gameplay or anything like that. I just checked it on Steam, I saw that I have it, and I figured, you know what, like let's give it a shot because it might be fun. This is gonna be my first YouTube video, so you know, it's gonna be a lot of learning new stuff. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, what you might want like to see changed. You know, like just give me your feedback. You know, like it's always welcome. You can do that in the comments on YouTube. You can do that in my Discord server, which like all of that information you can find, you know, in the description below. So yeah. I'm just gonna start the game. We'll see what it is, what it's about. I really don't know anything. I can't say anything. I haven't played it at all. I just started it before I started recording to see if everything runs okay and all of that. But I know nothing basically. So yeah, that's where we're at. Let's start and see where this takes us. I'm loving the music though. I awoke in my desk chair. Right. And then, across from me were his piercing amber eyes. They surprised. I would like to know if this was like a woman or a man speaking right now, just so that I know how to voice it, but you know. They surprised me at first. But I mean, okay. Yeah, anyway. They surprised me at first, but I should have known he'd be there. I stretched and said, mid-yawn, not very nice to sneak into a sleeping woman's apartment. But his stare just continued. Hey, yo, what? Hold on a minute, like, we're already in somebody else's apartment, like some woman sleeping and all that? Like, we weren't even invited in? I laughed at his glare, I cursed the open window. I don't know, man. I laughed at his glare, why not? I laughed at his glare. I'd seen San Francisco's shrewd thugs, hardened cops, and deadly politicians, but none could ever match that gaze. I knew I didn't have what he wanted. Reaching into my coat, I took out my knife and flicked it open. I gave him the knife, I held the knife steady. I held the knife steady. I held the knife steady while staring back at him. Look, I said, nodding towards the desk. That's all there is. Take it or leave it. But a detective knows when she's beat. And I knew then. He wanted to search the place and that's what he would do. I sighed, knowing my weakness for his type. Alright, I said. Let's look. I'm very surprised, so not surprised, very confused so far. I have no idea what's happening. I love that transition though, like from the two like dots into the cat eyes. That was cool. He let out a gleeful meow. Yo, we're talking about a cat, my guy. He let out a gleeful meow in victory. Why did I with the knife? I cut a piece of my apple that the cat had rejected. Always the sore winner, I jabbed. But I was smiling too, because I was telling the truth. There was absolutely no other food in my apartment. The cat often dropped by to scavenge. He made a lot of noise when he thought I was holding out on him. But right now, the place was clean empty. No food anywhere. I had to prove it to him. Okay. Okay, wait, we're in the game. This is the game we're playing. All right, so yeah, the very little that I did know about the game is that it's basically a 2D game with some sort of like detective mystery going on, and we can click around, find clues, and drive the narrative forward, basically. So yeah, we are playing at this point. Let's see. What's this about? I'd taken copies of old murder cases from the SFPD records when I'd left. I loved reading through them, even though my own contributions were minimal. At that time, I longed for those types of jobs. The truth was, any work was hard to find for a female detective. Okay. Okay. That lamp had belonged to my uncle Louis. He'd been an SFPD, so San Francisco Police Department. He was a SFPD officer, one who argued women could be good detectives, even while the others jeered at me. I knew he'd been right, but my current workload didn't help that claim. Let's see, I thought about Louis. I thought about Louis more often than I wanted. I was lousy at handling the emotions behind those thoughts. Okay. So what happens if I click this? Nothing. Okay. I noticed that after both of these, the notes button down here. Oh shit! You actually can't see that. Let me move the camera. Hold on. This is okay. So this is gonna be the first thing we're gonna need to change. Let's see the notes. Case summary. There were no cases just then, but the cat was meowing and needed attention. I had to contradict the cat by first talking to him, then pointing to a piece of evidence in my notebook that proved the apartment was empty of food. Yep, that sounds right. Goals. Show the cat that there's no food. Okay. Evidence. Home, paper stack, and desk lamp. Neither one of those. Okay, so those are things that we've learned through clicking on the different items. Statements, there should be none. Okay, so that's how the game works. Cool. Let's see what else in that case. Let's start, I don't know, how do we start so we don't miss anything? I'll start from the left side to the right side, I guess. So we checked this out. We'll check that out. Let's do this. Packaged cigarettes were the latest trend, but I still preferred to roll my own. I know what you mean. The ashtray was evidence that it was a practiced skill. I suppose I had a lot of free time back then. I kept a small statue underneath the side table. It had been police evidence in a crime, and its owner hadn't wanted it back. I took a shine to it, so I snagged it for myself on my way out of the department. So we're not an active wait, are we? What do you mean on my way out of the department? Like for the day or for forever? What's this one? A newspaper was flopped on the floor. Its headline about the death of Lenin, leader of the Red Menace, sweeping Russia. It seemed the Bolsheviks had lost their head. Well, I'm sure at least a few people did. My old notebook, now filled to the brim. I wrote everything down, even the minor details. Never know what can be useful. The first half had my old cases, the second half had my current. What's the current one? The second half had my current bunk, adultery cases, the only things I'd get hired to do. Whatever my findings, my employers often refused to believe me. It was thankless work, but even that was hard to come by. So I'm gonna assume that we used to work for the San Francisco Police Department, and now we are a private eye detective. A struggling one. At that. Okay. So we have this, but this seems like a door to somewhere else maybe. So let's check this first. The regular white icebox. Tinged yellow with age, half blocked the kitchen doorway. My income rarely kept much stocked in it, and right now it was empty. Okay. And what's this about? The door to the outside world. If I left now though, the cat would start wailing so loud I'd get complaints from the neighbors. No, he needed convincing before I could leave. Okay, well, I kind of feel like we've checked everywhere though. It's a completely point and click game. I haven't clicked on the cat actually. The cat had waltzed into my apartment a few years earlier. He kept coming back, though there was rarely a morsel to eat. He'd continue his loud meowing until I proved to him the place was empty of food. Alright, let's talk to the cat, I guess. It doesn't matter how doe-eyed you are, cutie pie, we've got no food around, I told him. He licked his chops and looked at me. Apparently, he still didn't believe that. I needed to contradict him somehow, to show him something in the apartment that would prove it was empty of food. The icebox? Can I show him the icebox? Yeah, I should be able to. Use to contradict. I opened the icebox so the cat could see inside. Empty, I told him. The cat moved. Oh, we got an achievement, but you can't see it. I think I know a setting that's gonna change that, so for next time you'll be able to see it. The cat looked quizzically at the open door, then back at me. Sorry, fella, there's no grub in there for me either. He stared at me with eyes as disappointed as I felt. Those big yellows always got to my soul. Thoughts of my family filled my head. Let's hear about the sister. My sister, Muriel, had sent a letter with an update of her life in Chicago. She and her husband had just purchased a new home outside the bluster of the city. Their 3 young children were looking forward to the move. I'd never told Muriel, but those letters kept me going. Hearing about my family, however remote, helped me cope with the isolation I was feeling. I'd refused to accept it myself back then, but perhaps Muriel had known anyway. My sister had the ordinary lifestyle that I had rejected. I'd wanted to change the world to save myself. To change the world. Nah, that's to save myself. Change the world just kind of sounds too generic, you know, like it's the story for every do-gooder, right? In every game. For every hero or, you know. To save myself. I'd wanted to save myself from the monotony of traditional marriage, to prove that a woman could do more than her child-rearing duty. Not that I was helping advance that cause with the types of cases coming my way. My mind spiraled into the usual series of questions. Had I even impacted the women's movement? Had I made any change on society at all? Was my plodding career worth losing traditional happiness? What was the point in the life I had chosen? A loud meow from the cat snapped my thoughts back into the moment. I took a deep breath and grinned back at him. Guess you can scram now, I said. Nobody's going to come knocking with food for you, fella. Oh! FBI, open up! There immediately came a banging on the front door. Beyond the nuisance, this cat was psychic too. You order out? I asked him. In the doorway was the regrettably familiar face of Connor Green. I stared at him, I looked past him, his company churned my stomach. It might have been his bergamot perfume, which hung around my nostrils like a lingering unwanted guest, or that sordid smile, which was forever plastered on his face. Yeah, that does look like an annoying smile, I'll give you that. It got worse, it just got worse. He stared at me through the doorway with a coy smile. Well, ain't you gonna invite me inside? I started closing the door, but he stuck out a foot to stop me. Hey now, he chided. Foul way to treat a customer, Malone? So that was his angle, hiring me as a detective. I wondered what a bootlegger would need with a private eye, but he answered without my prompt. I'll make this quick. I can't take this to the hog house, or the pigs would laugh me out. And other dicks just aren't as tempting. His grin widened. Why do you have to use that word, man? That's kind of weird. Thought this was gonna be quick, I said, and I started rolling a cigarette. It wasn't quick, and I'd already rolled and lighted a second smoke when Green finally finished his story. I noted the important bits in my book. It had started with a letter, slipped under his door in a white envelope. The envelope contained a single typewritten leaf, which he handed to me. It read, "End your game, or we'll end you." It had no signature, instead ending with only a small scribble in the bottom right corner that resembled a black hand. Green had a lead on a new rum-running scheme. A connection from Vancouver he'd given a sample to Tiny Paul, the gangster who ran the Tin Spoon speakeasy for mob boss Jerry Ferry. Jerry Ferry! Jerry Ferry! They'd agreed to buy in for more. Green surmised the letter was about his rum running. He suspected Redstone Stable, another bootlegger, of sending the letter. He told me that Stable ran a barber shop during the day and gave me the address. Okay, so I guess we're gonna go talk to the guy then. Green needed to know who the threat was from. He'd get Paul's gang to deal with them and continue his scheme to get rich. If I go snooping myself, he concluded, folks see I'm not trusting people. No trust leads to no customers. I need to play it low-key. Which is where you come in. I raised an eyebrow and stared at him through the cigarette smoke. Something in his yarn was still twisted. He must have noticed my reticence, because he said, "You know, I worked closely with Lewis. I'm sure he'd want to protect me as much as any other victim." My uncle. Lewis had put me on the force, we know that. I'd finally accepted Lewis's death. I was still searching for answers. Sure, let's go with this. My uncle. I was still searching for answers after his death. He'd been a man obsessed with helping victims and bringing justice to those beyond salvation. With that ethos, I never understood how he could have taken his own life. Those thoughts haunted me. I'd quit the SFPD and started my own practice, taking his philosophy. Was Green worth my time? Would he be worth Lewis's? Green had tipped off my uncle in a few cases. I wondered if that was enough to warrant my protection. Before I could think past my headache, he threw a bill in my lap. Keep the C notes as a retainer, and don't worry about getting in touch. I'll find you later for a chat. He turned down the hallway and I let him go. If he was willing to give me $100 with no commitment, I wouldn't stop him. Yeah, I mean, if somebody just dropped by at some point, like uninvited, and they were like, "Yo, here's the 100. You know, you do you." Yeah, I'd take it too. I turned back to the apartment, still confused about the whole story. My headache wasn't helping either. Whenever I lacked clarity, a trip to Southern Coffee was usually the cure. Fuck that, let's go to the barbershop, man. I'd mounted a gold plate to the outside that read P.C. Malone, Private Eye Investigator. Okay. There was only one place I needed to go to clear my head. Yeah, but that's not where I want to go, man. But I guess fine, let's go there. Southern Coffee was a basement dive. It wasn't modern, hip, or ever busy, and it was my favorite place to go down And it was my favorite place to down some paint. Is that a new word for coffee? Especially in the company of the best bartender in the city. I assume that was a cab. I hailed the driver, gave him the address, and stepped through the back door. I debated talking with the driver. Nah, fuck that. I peered out the window until we arrived. Yep, that is quite literally what I do every time. Southern Coffee was an automat diner. Ethel Burgess? Burgess? How do you fucking pronounce that? Yo, tell me in the comments, how do you pronounce that? The lone waitress was friendly to help with any inquiry. Of course, if you winked at her right, she'd show you the way to the downstairs toilet, where Frankie played bathroom attendant. Southern Coffee had a distinct feeling of home. The familiar smell of mold in that old basement was enough to put a grin on my face. You know what? I kind of know what they mean. Alright, let's start again. Left to right. Top to bottom. Frankie had a bond with that old shaker at the end of the bar. I was surprised he hadn't named it. He could sling a mean drink, though he'd only use the good liquor if he liked you. Frankie liked me. I see. So we have exactly one place we can sit. I grabbed the wine bottle on the bar and examined its label. It featured a picture of grapes and the words "sacramental use only." Frankie looked at me with a spark in his eye. "Go ahead," he said. "Give it a swig." Hell yeah. I grabbed a half-empty glass that had been next to the bottle and swirled some its contents. I'm pretty sure there's, you know, like my detective instincts are telling me that between some and its there should be of. You know, let's continue with that. And swirled some of its contents between my gums. "A bit spicy, ain't it?" Frankie asked. It's good, I nodded. It's good, I nodded, and gulped the rest down. "It'll cost you too," he said with a smile, and he grabbed the bottle from me, turning it through his hands. Rabbis? This is the word like rabbi, right? Like yeah. Rabbis charge more than a nickel for this beauty. Only this type of Napa wine is made from the Zinfandel grape. It has a unique aroma. I'd been trying to learn more about wine. Seemed everyone knew their stuff but me. I'm same, by the way. Like, I really am not that good when it comes to wine. I don't know much. I noted what Frankie had said about the origin of the grape as he sat the bottle back on the bar. "You don't even drink," I chided. Frankie let out a bellied laugh. "I can still enjoy the smell," he said. There was a story behind his teetotaling, but he'd cut short any talk about it. An old relationship with the drink for a barman. Frankie sighed. "Too bad more folks can't know about it. That woman's league is the devil." The Women's Christian Temperance Union was now under feminist Frances Willard, a positive force for the suffrage of women. But her staunch support of prohibition, along with the union's massive political clout, irked the very wet San Franciscan public. And she particularly wasn't popular with bartenders. Yeah, I wonder why. "Take a seat," he said. "I'll make you something else." He'd been a decent pitcher for the Seals a few decades earlier. Sometimes he'd speak wistfully of those days. But his arms were much more used to slinging bottles now. I sat at the bar. You got the spooks, PC? He asked. "You're worn as a catcher's mitt?" I suppose my exhaustion showed. "I won $100 for nothing, and I can't let it go." I told Frankie about the case, the threatening letter sent to Connor Green, how he assumed it was related to his bootlegging, and his suspicion of Redstone Stable. The story took longer than I had wanted, Frankie showing genuine interest by asking many questions. When I finished, he threw me the whiskey sour he'd been stirring. I took a large gulp and gave a sigh as thanks. Well, Green's case is better than most of what you're given, he said with some enthusiasm. At least it's not more of that adultery bunk. Sure, I replied, but I started with a goal in mind. What's the point in helping a man like Green? Frankie clicked his tongue on his teeth. Frankie clicked his tongue on his teeth. Lawyer or priest, why does it matter? Let me ask you, are the clients you have now the types you want to help? I admitted they weren't, or I refused to admit. I admitted they weren't. I told him that I'd wanted more from my detecting life. It could be that Green's case shoots your career forward, Malone. I sighed and stared down at my drink. But my daze was interrupted by the basement door opening then slamming shut. A small blustering woman began marching towards me. She was wearing a light blue cloche hat with a grey ribbon tilted back on her head. A scarf of similar blue draped around her neck. But I was startled by what she wore under it, a grey trench coat that looked too large for her frame. It was exactly like the one that had belonged to Lewis. She hurled insults at me a while. All I could do was sit and take it until she ran out of gas and started breathing heavily. I set my drink on the bar and looked her in the eyes. I studied her features more thoroughly. It was plain she was a knockout now that she'd finished shrieking. Beyond the latest blush and lipstick, she had the natural soft skin and bright eyes perpetually desired by the opposite sex. While I was eyeing her, she caught her breath and restarted her tirade. Tirade! I know that word. I'm the wife of that bum who sneaks into your bed. I asked the cat, but humor wasn't her angle, and she launched into another poetic stanza. And he just left your sty this morning, she finally ended. And that was when I gathered she was Connor Green's wife. And that's a good time to end it. So thanks a lot for watching. If you did watch, if you didn't, how dare you? How dare you? No, I'm kidding. But thanks a lot. You know, if you like this content, you know the whole spiel. Leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what you want to see like changed, you know, what you liked, disliked in general, so that, you know, we can improve on it. Join the Discord server. We're a growing community, still pretty small, but you know, we're getting there. I also stream on Twitch, so you can find me there every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We're playing Final Fantasy XIV online right now. This is my first time playing the game. I just finished the main quest for the base game for A Realm Reborn, and we're gonna start on Thursday. So tomorrow we're starting the first expansion. So yeah, thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.